Hello, 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 and welcome back to Hex. I'm Zachary Chalcom, also known as Hex Player Zaki, and I'm here again for another deck tech. Today we're looking at some of the newer cards that were added in the last patch of Hex. Well, okay, we're only looking at one. One of the newer decks that you could do with dwarves was to add in the Illumination Specialist. And he's kind of your, he's one of your linchpins to just getting stuff through. Your overall thing, just getting stuff through and controlling the board. Your overall thing is, like most dwarf or robot decks, is Volcanon. I mean, just the Exhausted Dwarf deal 3 damage. Even if you only have one, 3 damage still every turn is a lot. And usually with these, if you can get a Volcanon on board, you'll from Bertram or just random like charge bots and whatever, you can be pumping out a lot of damage per turn. With 4 being where you get 2 volleys each instep. Or 1 instep on their turn if you don't swing with anything. But yeah, just kind of go through the cards. Your 1 drops are a charge bot to help get Bertram up to making more worker bots. And you just use the worker bots either as blocking fodder or for using for your Volcanon. So in some situations, if you know that they have a lot of burn and not a lot of attacks, which usually does not coincide unless you're playing like blue or playing against Blood Sapphire control, it might actually be better to hold on to all your worker bots and wait till you have a Volcanon out. Your other 1 drop is a Gearsmith, so it lets you look through the top of your cards, hopefully finding either a Patero bot or a Volcanon. It doesn't quite have all the, or a Sapper's Charge even. It doesn't quite have a great number of artifacts to find, but it's got a good number and the ones that you want to be able to find as soon as possible. Other 1 drop is Sapper's Charge, which is an artifact that is basically burn on a stick. Where burn is, burns right next to it. So you got, I call this Dwarf Burn more than anything, because you have the Elimination Specialist to get rid of things on their board, Burn to get things rid of things on their board, and Sapper's Charge to get rid of things on their board. And then you mostly deal damage through Volcanon, but if they have a clear board, you can just swing in with all of your stuff. It's just a thing that you could do. Moving up to 2 drops, there aren't many except for the Technical Genius, and that's just to get your more expensive artifacts like the Patero bot or the Volcanon out fairly soon. That makes Volcanon a 4. This makes Patero bot 5 if you have nothing else out, because it'll reduce it 1 because he's a dwarf, and it'll reduce it 1 because he reduces artifacts by 1. Then we get to 3 drops, and you get to your Rocket Ranger, which is a very good staple for dwarf decks that are using artifacts. 1 artifact, he gets flight. 2, he gets +2/+2, or 3, he gets +2/+2. 5, when he attacks, he also deals 4 damage. So effectively, he does 8 damage if he gets through. And it's easier for him to get through since he has flight. So your opponents don't really want you to keep that many artifacts on board, if you can. Going on to, usually Paterobot is, or Terabot, I probably should not pronounce the P so prominently, is usually 3 is what your casting cost is, but it could be your 4 or 5 slot. 4 is 1 Ureg, they're a Robomancer, just to put more bots onto the field, while Elimination Specialist is your main 4 drop. He comes in, he gets a rocket counter for each artifact you control. You have that turn to expend all of your rocket counters how you see fit to all of the enemy, whichever target enemy troops. Usually just eliminating most of their board or their big threat or whatever. But at the end of the turn, they lose them all. This is kind of different because the original text on him was, like, when he enters in, he does damage to each one based on the artifacts or something like that. Which I think they could do a lot smoother way to say this. Like, when he enters in, deal number of damage to target troops equal to the number of artifacts you have, divided as much how you see fit. Because it's currently buggy right now with counter staying there afterwards, so we'll have to watch that. But at the end of the turn, you're supposed to not be able to use the rocket counters anymore. And then 5 drops is the Volcanon. You just try to get that out and just start wailing away. Pterabot's still good because it's a 3/5. It can really put in stuff away. You could also, I don't have it in here, but it is decent to have in the Guardian. Where is he? Oh, for when this will no longer just... Eternal Guardian, there he is. You can put this into, it's an 8-drop, so it takes a while to get to. That's why I didn't put it in, because it's just horribly hard to get to. Pterabot does a pretty good job deterring flying things. But that would deter a lot of flying things, and then it would protect your troops. So that's another good thing it could do. It's also a 5/5 flying, so that's always good. Same would be for Argus. Argus has a little bit more of a possibility, because you have a decent way of also lowering it again, and it does get lower per turn, but it's not amazing, put it in one way. I have an idea for him later anyway. So into the reserves, just some things we could have. We're not going to use them because we're probably just going to play single lists, but some chaos keys to avoid stuff. We don't need another Volcanon, another Pterabot if they have a lot of flyers. Bombsmith for early removal. You just use them, come in, take out their Howling Brave or something like that. Research Librarian if you need to find more cards or you're playing against control matchup, so you'll need a lot more cards to keep up with their accelerated card draw. And then Goblin Cooking Pot. I actually really like this card. It also fits kind of like the burn stuff. You play it for 1, you sack it for 2, it deals 1 damage, they lose a charge, and then they discard a card. It does a lot for what it could... Or it does a lot for the little tiny package that it is. Because it's like Sapper's Charge. Like, if you're playing against a control matchup, they probably won't have that many things on board. So actually, Sapper's Charge might be traded out for the Goblin Cooking Pot at that time. Anyway, let's go hit it up. See you guys in a second when we find a match.